The liquor license subcommittee member. Can we put 7:30? Because it's 7:30.
Yeah, no, you gotta start, at the agendized time, or,
Isn't it 7:30 or at the end of council? I thought.
you still have to start at the agendized time, so. How long, if council ends early or stuff.
You're waiting for it to update?
That's the gamble.
Just a minute on some technology here.
Cody said he asked everybody how long they thought the council meeting would go, and he said 7:30, but he didn't know I had a closed session.
So if we're done early, we can't start the count till 8 o'clock.
Right.
No, I just decided to do an update. Thank you, though. Okay. Chua in finance, or IT?
Huh, I don't think I've ever met her. I know I
Yeah,
have.
I've had people call me from
Okay, now you should be able to.
Is this a joke?
Oh, yeah.
You see these names and little pictures, and it's like, who's that? And she used to know everybody's names.
Okay, now. Okay, you're connected.
Is everybody else in? Good to go?
Nope. Missing Tom. Okay. Hey, Vicky Lee.
You guys in?
Hey, we are good on this side. We
on
think we
that?
could get started. Are they giving a presentation, the Boy Scouts?
I'll introduce them, sure.
Then I think, yeah.
We're waiting on Vicky.
Yeah, so you can get
There
started.
we go.
She should be good.
Okay, we've got it. 6:32. On Tuesday, May 28th, you are at a Common Council meeting of the City of Wausau. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And would the clerk call the roll, please?
We have 11 voting members present.
And no proclamations tonight. However, I would like to announce we have Troop 400 visiting us tonight for a first-class visit here for a requirement for promotion. So they'll be joining us tonight in the audience. And we have up next public comment. Any pre-registered citizens? And we have none. Up next is file 240501, approving the council meeting minutes from 5/14/2024. I have a motion from, you're right, okay. I'm going to back that up. We're on the entire consent agenda, which include the meeting minutes. And I have a motion from Watson, second by Tierney. Any corrections, comments on those? And we're ready to vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
Up next, file 240502, mayor's appointments from the packet. And I would entertain a motion from Lukens, second by Watson. Questions, comments?
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
Up next, file 240514 from Economic Development, resolution approving the authorization for request. I skipped one. I'm going to back up to file 020433. This is council election for Wausau Waterworks. And I would entertain a motion, or I would entertain a nomination for Alder for Waterworks. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Sarah Watson.
We have a nomination for Sarah Watson. Would you accept?
Yes.
Do we have any other nominations for Water Commission? Alder Larson.
Thank you. I nominate Chad Henke, Alder Henke.
Alder Henke, would you accept if nominated?
When do they meet?
Second, third Tuesday at 1:30.
Second Tuesday at 1:30. That could,
I wouldn't be able to make that, so thanks, but no thanks.
so we have one nomination. And without objection, on unanimous consent, we would accept Alder Watson. Do we have to vote on that?
Yeah, you can just do a voice vote.
For a voice vote, all in favor of Alder Watson?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Alder Watson. Now up next is 24-0514 Economic Development Resolution approving the authorization for request for proposal for the North Riverfront redevelopment plan, which comes to us as a failed motion from Economic Development and a 2-2 vote. And I have a motion from Alder Luken, second from Neal. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to support this tonight. I think that we can use $100,000 elsewhere, like we could put it in a kitty to fix our streets. I think that we've got an economic and development department that's fully capable of, with the money we're paying them, should be fully capable to figure out what to develop and when. I don't feel that we need to hire a committee to do so, so I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Gisselman.
Yes, thank you. I see Andy's here. Can you explain a little bit about what we're trying to do here? You know, there are a variety of big issues with regard to this development. The chemical plant and a variety of other things.
Sure.
I have some other questions, but you may want to just.
Sure. Thank you, Alder Grisman. So as far as the funds for this, it's budgeted in the planning department's funds this year. So we're ready to go with it. And really, this is a chance for the city to start planning for some properties it's been acquiring over the past 7 years. The former water treatment plant, this is the East Riverfront properties north of Bridge Street. So you have the former water treatment plant, Wausau Chemical, where Great Lakes Cheese facility used to be. And then just north of Winton Street is the storage yard that County Materials used to use. And, over the past several years, there have been various one-off proposals to use portions of that land. But what we're really looking to do with this is to bring some expertise in what is actually kind of a challenging site, to be able to work around the Wausau chemical site, let that happen in its own time. And, it's constrained by the river and the railroad tracks. It's actually got more access than the River Life area, which is something we want to make sure we don't make worse for the neighborhood if we're putting development down by the riverfront. So we want to make sure we can tune the type of development that's going to happen there to not have a disproportionate negative impact on the neighborhood. And really just take an opportunity to kind of make a decision on what that development in that area is going to look like. And as we put in this document, it should be somewhere between less of an intensity than what's happening at River Life and more than a single family home, and kind of see what's going on in between that. Maybe they'll be a little bit more open, kind of give it a chance to breathe. And kind of the nice thing about going out for a qualified firm to do this for us is, I wish I was an expert. I'd probably charge you more per hour. But as far as we'd be able to find a firm that's dealt with doing redevelopment of industrial sites, and especially ones that have dealt with Superfund sites, and how to work around those and what to do with the environmental remediation in that sense, and not specifically how to do the environmental remediation. That's a separate department, separate issue. But hope that kind of answered some of your questions.
Go ahead, Gary.
So you use the word socially impactful what do you mean by that? Because it seems to me that, I think, is this going to be, well, I would hope that there would be enough public space. I understand development, I understand, but I also think the public space seems to be disappearing from the river edge, and I would hope that this public space would be an important part of what we plan for this. We don't know about the treatment plant, we don't know about Wausau Chemical, but certainly north of that, I think there's enough opportunity that development doesn't overshadow the need and the necessity for some public space, specifically along the river. So I would hope that there would be some opportunity for great landscape planning and access to the riverfront with this plan. I will support it because I think this is maybe necessary for the development of this. And I think once we have the plan, I would hope that something doesn't, your lighter housing, so to speak, but I would hope that a big development would not come in, and overshadow what the plan would be. So I look forward to a plan. I look forward to a plan that the city council and the citizens could agree to. But let's be careful of this land. Let's be careful of this this great riverfront that we do have. So thank you.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I agree with Alder Gisselman. I think this is necessary. I think one of the most responsible ways for us to find a balance between active public spaces, which is one thing we want for our riverfront. We've made substantial investments in acquiring riverfront land, which is a limited commodity for us, and we want people to be able to access that and enjoy it in a recreational capacity. But we also have to balance that with economic development growth and return on investment to some level. And I think as we try to balance tax-based growth and returning some of that property to taxable purpose, some of which has never paid tax because we've owned it forever. I think that to get that balance and to make sure that that planning is done right, it makes sense to engage professionals that have seen beyond the confines of the Wausau city limits. Like, we need a broad base of knowledge in that consultant to make sure that we're getting experienced planning, and then when we adopt that plan, projects and requests for proposals that go out are weighed against that plan to make sure that they dovetail with what we want to see that area become. That is that's a need that we have here. We've done an awful lot of master plans and we follow them, but I think that's the way you really get responsible growth and still maintain those spaces that you want for the community to access so that your riverfront doesn't feel like someone's front lawn where they don't belong. And so to create that balance where we see that revenue gain in some of the parcels, but the recreational purpose in others, that's what we need the professionals for. So the fact that we have it already budgeted and they're ready to go forward, the sooner they start that planning, the better, I feel like. So I'm supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Killian.
Sorry, I had a chance to speak with Andrew Lynch for some time, and he explained to me how he felt about the importance of planning, and I agree that planning is important. But what I'd like to do is call to memory of my colleagues our council retreat of April 16th. At that council retreat, they asked us to prioritize the three most important issues for our city, and city spending was one of those priorities. And I believe everybody at that council meeting agreed that city spending has become an issue for our residents. Shortly after the council meeting, I received a communication from our council president, and I was very pleased to have that communication, as she also showed concern for city spending. She indicated that she has had some discussions with the mayor and a couple department heads this year saying, quote, "The best approach is to really for them to take stock of the urgency of things they plan to ask for, and if it seems they will keep, it would help if they would hold up on those until we know more about where we are heading with this revaluation on our citizens." I agree completely that we should be looking at what is urgent for the city to be spending. In addition, we have released an RFI on the South Riverfront. We have no idea what the cost of that is going to be. I don't know of any large development with the city that has not requested and received city funding. So we still don't know what that's going to cost the city, if anything. I guess it's my opinion that the urgent needs of our residents, the water bills, the taxes, all of those things that are being called to our attention are far more important. And I understand this money has been budgeted, but I believe if it's not spent this year, it can go back into the general fund and be reallocated. Is that correct?
I believe this was coming out of tax increment district number 3, so it would just remain unspent or could be applied to a future project.
Okay,
But it would
thank
have to
you.
be an eligible project.
Because I feel the needs of our residents are far more important than moving ahead on this, I can't support it.
Thank you. Alder Hanky.
Thank you. I know this site is very narrow. I walk down there all the time. The roads are terrible, or very difficult to navigate in a car. So I could see, and let alone the power lines running overhead. I noticed those type of things.
Yep.
The water mains. I could see where having an expert tell us how to best handle all of that would be of great value. This is also just a request for proposal, so we're not spending any money with this
That's correct.
at this point. If we get a bunch of requests back that we don't like or want to spend a lot of money, we can always just deny them or pick a different one at that time.
That's correct. This really is the first step in the process where we are asking firms to give us a proposal for what their vision, based on what they've done in the past and kind of how their look at the site and kind of what their experience are and their qualifications, kind of how they would approach this creation of a plan, given our parameters, and ultimately what it would cost them to do so. And we have in there a budget of $100,000. If it comes in less than that, and we feel it's going to be an adequate plan, then I'm quite welcome to go with that. If They propose something that's more than $100,000. We can just eliminate that right off bat, or we can take another look at it, or we have all sorts of options in front of us. But you're correct. And to speak to all the utilities in that area and the constrained site, it's really doing a plan now allows us to look ahead at utility improvements, street improvements at times when it's most advantageous, most efficient, most cost effective. If we happen to be doing something else in that area and we could do another part of this for that area, then it would make sense to be more efficient at that time. So I caution against not spending money now. It may cost us money later. So yeah. Thank
And
you.
then as far as how long this could sit out there, we just approved a Safe Routes to School plan that started 2 administrations ago, I think. So I mean, I can see this as a long-term plan that we have out there, and I think it's a lot easier to adjust a plan rather than rush a new plan along, and have a solid starting point to at least be able to start, like Andy mentioned, at least be able to start part of the process. So, thank you.
Thank you. Alder Neal.
Thank you. Well, we all know that this is a prime redevelopment footprint for the city. There's no doubt about that. And there's no doubt that this tract of land is going to play a role in the future of this city. We know that. We just can't let it sit there forever and just rot. It will be part of our future. Now, is that going to be 3 years now, 5 years from now, 10? I don't know. But I do know that if we don't start a process, we're not starting anything. We're not starting any kind of steps towards that future. We really need to take this opportunity to get a handle on it so we get more information, more intelligence, and be better able to work with future developers who will also benefit from this information, when it is, put together and released. If I were a developer, I'd want to know, what's going on there in the plan, what's going on there with infrastructure, what's going on there with how are we going to treat the riverfront, et cetera, et cetera. That's really important information that no developer wants to sit and wait for, for I don't know how many years. I mean, let's get the ball rolling. And it's already budgeted, so let's go ahead and get the ball rolling. This is an important part of our future, and I don't think we should just let it sit. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I'm not mistaken, there's a piece of this property where there's some question about remediation,
That would be the Wausau chemical site.
correct?
Yes.
And I don't know how we can hire somebody to do a future plan and a future prospectus of what we can do with this when we don't even know what we can do with a piece of that property because it's not remediated. So we don't know. Can we put a building on there? Can we have living space on there? Can we not? Can we have green space on there? So I think we're kind of putting the cart before the horse when we're asking somebody, tell us, what can we develop here before we know what land is really developable?
Sure.
So for that reason, I can't support this at this time.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. First, I think that we need some clarification. When we had our council retreat, we talked about a lot of things, and we actually set to work on prioritizing 3 things that we as a council want to work on over the next 2-year cycle. Those 3 issues that really boiled to the top as the 3 things that we want to prioritize are homelessness, affordable housing, and economic development and growth. And so knowing that we also need to keep our eye on other things that appeared on that list, those were the 3 items that boiled to the top. And economic development and growth, this urban planning is a component of that. To lend some context, the discussions that the mayor and I have had and that I included in my communication to Alder Killian were relevant to the development of the 2025 budget, the 2025 mill rate, the 2025 CIP capital plan, and 2025 supplemental spending. It was not my goal for people to think that we would not proceed with the projects that we had funded for 2024. So just so we're clear on that, I have had people actually ask me out in the community what our plan is for the old water plant site and building. Obviously, we don't have one yet. We want to see something there eventually, but, they've only just left that building was my answer to people. But, I think that there is some interest in the community to see what's next on the riverfront. And that north piece, some of those north pieces, we have offered up before. We've had a mixed bag of proposals. We've had apartments, we've had townhomes, we've had restaurants, and we've had all sorts of other things that the pandemic all scuttled. So, I think as we go forward, we do need some competent analysis professional analysis of what those sites can be used for. And like I said before, to get that mixture of recreational use and public access to space, and then balance that with growth. I mean, we do need to see growth. Tax-based growth is the number one way that you can create tax levy relief for your taxpayers. If you expand the pool of people paying into the tax levy, that really does spread out the pain for everyone that is paying in and contributing there. So, I think good planning is the cornerstone of that. And the fact that getting a proposal for a planner is not necessarily paying a planner yet. We need to know what's out there in the marketplace. I do believe we need to pass this and see what responses they get, and then select one if there's one that meets the criteria that's reasonably priced.
If I may real quick.
Go ahead.
I'd like to point out that having a plan like this also does help protect the city. I believe it was last year, there's a proposal for a music venue on the river, and they were looking at the Wausau chemical site. That fell apart for one reason or another, but their plan basically was to have, I believe, a 3,000, 1 to 3,000, it doesn't matter. It was a lot of people coming multiple nights of the week to the riverfront, having to drive through the neighborhood there from 6th Street in. That is something that I think the neighborhood would have rejected. But at the same time, if we have a plan like this, we can say, well, that's a nice idea, let's find some other place for it. But in this area, it doesn't really fit what our plan that we've done public input with, that we had careful consideration on, and we had council input on. It doesn't fit there, so let's find some other place for it. So in that case, it helps protect the city from, and something that may look really good at the time, but wouldn't fit in necessarily well with the best interests of the city or the neighborhood.
Thank you. Alder Lukens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. As Alder Henke noted, it's a request for proposals, and so for that reason, I will be supporting this because I'm curious, and at this point, it doesn't obligate us to any money. Also, I was just going to comment to that, one of the priorities that we chose at our retreat was housing. And that's something we need yesterday or before that. And so the sooner that we can find out, at least get an idea on proposals, the better. So anyway, for those reasons, I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Martins.
All right, thank you. Andrew, can you tell me, have we done any master planning or plans on the North River front yet at this point?
Yes, kind of. So the exact year escapes me. I want to say probably 2018 or 2019. There was a University of Wisconsin-Madison landscape architect student that did a plan for that area as part of their senior thesis or graduate thesis. And so that would be the only instance of that.
So that wasn't a plan by a professional firm, but that was a university, a student project, so.
Correct. And
Yeah.
I would have to check, but I believe it was done without public input as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think if I remember right, yeah, that was around, 2018-ish.
It looks very nice, but.
It's a beautiful plan. I'm not dismissing
No.
it, but, and since then, we have added property
Yes.
to the North Riverfront, but we don't really have anything kind of cohesive that sort of ties that whole area together, and, how we want that area to be redeveloped, as Alder Rasmussen touched on. It has, the past 6 years or so, since that plan was created, has been sort of a scattershot approach to development on the North Riverfront. And I think, we've seen a bunch of ideas pitched, and we've tried, however we could to get them to move forward, and and for whatever reason, there was a failure to launch. And I think the part of the reason is that maybe, some of those maybe the ideas didn't really fit into a master plan or design for the North Riverfront. And I think we do need something to show us how we can best utilize this space that does have challenges, remediation challenges, size, shape and size challenges. And I would like to see something, as Alder Gisselman said, respects public space along with a proper amount of density in that area. And I think we are going to need to get some outside help on that to help us really just sort of map out how we really want to best utilize the North Riverfront for those, for its best uses for, the city and for our community. So I'm going to be supporting the request for proposal.
Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I address Andrew?
Yes, go ahead.
My question is, what's preventing your department to do an in-house investigation on this land and proposal on this? Why can't we do this in-house? Why do we have to go out, outsource this? And as we said, are we not putting the cart before the horse before this land is remediated? But I'll just please
Sure.
answer my question.
Sure thing. Me personally, I have several other duties as well, various, committees working with, and so this would be on top of that. The kind of level of expertise I don't have. There's firms that, work on a regional or national basis and get to see these kinds of situations. As unique as we may think this is, it's really not. It's a legacy industrial, happens to be on riverfront, and has a Superfund site. And all those things put together, it's been done somewhere else before. So the ability to have that knowledge going in, and if you're already familiar with something, it makes it a lot easier. Have that knowledge going in, they would be able to pull in experts that have dealt with large utilities, have dealt with areas that have been remediated, and be able to give add their expert opinions to this plan. And then as far as the Wausau chemical site, I wouldn't be able to speak exactly to the plan for that. I do understand that it is, our environmental engineer is working with the DNR to set up a plan for that site. It could take several years for that to be at a level where it could be used. And if we were to wait until that point and then start thinking about a plan, it's likely that that area would either just sit unused, or there would be some one-off project that, for whatever reason, may win approval and go in there, and we may regret that later because we didn't take the time to plan carefully, so when we get the chance to act, we can do so deliberately. I hope I was able to answer your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Andrew,
Yes.
I had the pleasure of talking with you a little bit about this
Yes.
previously. And when you say that, you know, if we don't do this soon, that land is just going to kind of sit there empty. But if I recall, we weren't looking at really even doing something with this probably for about 8 years or so because of the other developments that are currently ongoing. Is that correct, or are we looking at something sooner than that?
I don't know about the 8 year, I don't recall the 8 years number. You know, I couldn't say when exactly something would be done with this. You know, just the plan itself could take about a year to complete and then be adopted. And then, you know, on top of that, that may draw some interest from developers, and they may want a certain spot. You know, that's kind of particular to them. It may also be on hold a bit because, you know, infrastructure, utilities, roads, takes time. You know, our engineering department works on the streets plans 5 years out. And it's probably more than that, but that's what they feel confident about. So all that stuff may take time, and if we can kind of fit the needs of that area into that priority list, then we can be a little bit more efficient about it. And you know, so it could take much less time. It could take 8 years, but if we don't have an idea of what we want in there, we may make a mistake of taking anything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Okay, I don't have a vote in this, but I guess I'll give you my 2 cents worth. And I would agree with Mr. Neal, it's not going to rot. And if it was 10 years, I think it would be a pretty easy choice. If it was next year, I think it would be prudent to move. We've been sitting on 16 acres, the original 16 acres now for a better part of 10 years. And we still have 8 acres to develop there, plus half of the downtown mall area. We've got the Wausau chemical problem, and I thought it was UW Milwaukee, but they did that riverfront plan. You know, maybe we need to dust that off and see where it has helped or hurt, or what it has done for us. But I'm going to say, you know, let's think about this. We are in a spot where we do need to conserve money wherever we can, and this to me seems like one we could. Thank you.
You may begin voting. Click these two. Motion passes 7-4.
All right, we're up to the next item, and we're going to suspend the rules for the following under 12A, filing of resolutions, 2/3 vote required. We need a motion. We have a motion by Watson, second by Rasmussen.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
First item there is 23-11090 from the Finance Committee, resolution approving 2024 budget mod for purchase of 10 portable Motorola radios. And I didn't get the vote on that. How did that come out in Finance?
Yeah, it was a unanimous
Unanimous in
vote
finance.
to use carryover funds from the police department to fund the purchase of the radios.
Okay, thank you. And Mike Martins?
Yeah, that was.
Good to go. Any other comments? We may vote.
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
Next, file 24-0519. It's a council resolution approving intergovernmental agreement for weights and measures inspection. with the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. And would entertain a motion from Rasmussen, second by Hanky. Any comments, questions on that?
You may begin voting. Motion passes 11-0.
You may want to take public comment, and I'll indicate that we won't be coming back into open session.
Okay, so we're gonna convene into closed session. We will not be reconvening, so at this point, we would take public comment and suggestions if there are any.
Any scouts?
Any of the scouts, anyone want to give us a comment? All right.
They're still awake.
I can't guarantee how long this is going to take, but we have a committee of the whole scheduled for 8 o'clock.
Do you have a comment?
We do have a commenter? Sure, you could step up to the microphone at the podium and give us your name and address and tell us what you'd like.
Just your name is fine. You don't have to give us your address.
My name is Isaac, and I find it really interesting how it was very close to when we were learning Robert's Rules of Order in our classroom.
Very good.
We're all experts on Robert's Rules here.
Anyone
All
else?
right, anyone else for comment? All right, anyone interested in reading the closed session language for us to put us, do we need a, Alder Lukens?
I move that we enter into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub G, Wisconsin statutes conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved regarding Marathon County case number 24 CV 40 or 40 Green Acres at Greenwood Hills LLC versus the City of Wausau.
Thank you. So that's a motion by Lukens, second by Watson.
And then we can do a roll call vote. Lukens,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Killian, Neal,
Aye.
Gisselman, McElhaney, Rasmussen,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Tierney,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Hanky.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
And the staff required in this is going to be the city attorney and the clerk. Thank you.
Wait. I know that weights and measures contract normally, like, it just had the mayor sign it. And then for the procurement meeting, it said A, and I'm like, we should probably have this go to council. I was ready. It's actually really interesting. Hey, thank you all for coming. You're welcome. Have a good night.
There was one thing about.
matter how much experience I have. So we had to have this special meeting. Yeah. And I said, I've never watched it. But that's not what you're asking me to say. No, for next time. 6 was good enough. I can't, and I realized that I'm not gonna apply. And she's, well, that's fine. I'm not gonna try to say it. It's like, so you're shaming me for not paying for line? And you know what, that, guys, that brings me to the lawyer side of it. Did everybody agree? For the most part, I mean, there were a lot of things that they was gonna be unanimous. That means everybody wanted this to go through or not go through. This evening was going to take but there we went on, it's slow. That's the thing about me, I get lost. And like I said before, this isn't much different than the ways we should be writing our PLCs. And we're not